Mandukya Karika, Pranam Mantra. Om Badram Karne Bhishnuyama Deva Badram Pashe Makshabhirya Jatra Sthirairange Stustuvagung Sastanubhi Vyashema Deva Hitan Yadayu Swasti na Indro Vriddhashava Swasti na Pusha Vishwaveda Swasti nastakshyo Arishtanemi Swasti no Brihaspatir Dadhatu Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. We covered up to verse number 52, and the general idea that's coming, something that you need to understand, like what would be the take from the entire talk? We have been discussing so much. One may want to know what exactly is special about Mandukya Karika and what we have been discussing for so long. I think today is our talk number 53. What exactly we have been talking? Ultimately, see what happens if you go through any work, howsoever voluminous, if you go through a novel, through anything, generally the gist of any of these books can be narrated in exactly 50 words. 50 words is the limit in which any story can be narrated. And the story might be simplistic, but it conveys the idea. Naturally, when you are reading a work of philosophy, you would like to know, oh, what is the central theme? What exactly you want to say? It's a different matter that in most cases people have nothing to say. There's a very funny story about one American gentleman. These American gentlemen, they have a tendency to roam around and give lectures on every possible topic under the sky, under the sun. So once one of these gentlemen, he went to to Japan, and there the translator says something, and there was a clap. And American gentleman kept on speaking for maybe half an hour. And again, this translator got up and said something in one sentence. And there was good clap. And then another half an hour or so, finally when he sat down, the Japanese gentleman got up, translated another one sentence. And there was huge clapping, huge applause. On their way back, the speaker asks, how is it that you could sum me up in 3 sentences? So very sheepishly he said, my first sentence was that as any other American, he thinks he has a lot to say. In case he has something to say, I'll tell you. So there was clap. In the middle, he got up and said, as expected, till now he has not said anything new. There was a clap. And when it ended, so he concludes, as I told you, he had nothing new to say. And there was huge clap. Now, there's a thing. Either you have nothing to say, practically nothing new to say, or if you have something to say, it can be put in maximum 50 words. For example, let's talk of Swami Vivekananda. We now have 9 volumes of his work, and every sentence requires elaboration. Every sentence requires elaboration. How can we put him in 50 words? Yes, he can be. He himself has done it. When he says, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, internal and external, finished. His entire work is just these 2 sentences. Look at his life. His whole life is just unfolding of these two sentences. Every phenomenon in this world is a manifestation of this utterance, just explanation of this utterance, wherever. And that's how he said education is the manifestation of the perfection. Perfection is divinity. And when he saw poor and wretched and ignorant people and saw them, they are suffering, his heart wept. Why? The divine in such a bad shape. Just like that, you would like to know what exactly Mandukya Karika has to say in two sentences. Number one, Atman alone exists, which is infinite without any parts. Number two, the cause and effect that we see is an illusion. Finished. There ends Mandukya Karika. Well, I'm sure most of you must have gathered it, must have worked it out that this exactly is what Mandukya Karika is about. Atman alone exists. Atman alone is real. It is infinite. It has no parts. It's pure consciousness. And the cause and effect that we see, actually, it's an illusion. Naturally, the waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state, these are all illusions. No, Atman alone exists. A worker who makes something, who creates something, it's all illusion. Oh, I tell you, it can be frightening. My daily worship to God is an illusion. My meditation is an illusion. My relationships and all the relatives, these are all illusions. My birth, my death, it's all illusion. My pain, my suffering, my happiness, it's all illusion. So, why do these scriptures talk about creation, dissolution, etc.? Because these are talked from two different standpoints. The general expression is paramarthik and vyavaharik. From the supreme standpoint, from the ultimate standpoint, absolute standpoint, and second one, the relative standpoint. At the relative plane, all these things are true and real. There's a very famous work called Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. There, the protagonist, he comes to India also. It's a fat book. And there he meets someone who is preaching Advaita. And the protagonist asks, what do you think about the war and the people they are suffering? The teacher says, well, it's all illusion, it's all Maya. I felt such repulsion towards the author. He had not understood Advaita. No teacher of Advaita will say all this is illusion because people who are suffering, they are in illusion, but their pain is real. Sri Krishna taught Gita to Arjuna and said, you are beyond birth, you are beyond death, etc. And Arjuna said that my delusion is gone, I'll fight. After some days, his son Abhimanyu, his dear son, dies. Do you think that Arjuna might have told that Denosmin yatha de kaumaram yovanam jara? Abhimanyu has not died. His soul is all pervasive. No, he must have cried. Why? Because simply by listening to Gita, he was not a liberated person. He was not an enlightened person. He even had Vishwarup Darshan. He saw God in all forms. But no, that's not knowledge. So you may have all the visions of God. That will take you nowhere. Because ultimately, it all belongs to the realm of mind. It all belongs to the realm of mind. But go through the descriptions about Sri Krishna in Mahabharata, in Bhagavatam. You don't find him crying ever, ever, ever. If at all he cries, it is to tease his mother. Oh, because he is established in that wholeness, he is established in that oneness. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we come across a very interesting instance where Sri Ramakrishna is told that Pabhari Baba was a great yogi, he had kept a photograph of his, and Sri Ramakrishna was at that time slowly moving inward. His mind was moving inward. He was entering samadhi. And he says of this external one, of the covering. It's a beautiful statement. Sri Ramakrishna used to stay in different states of existence. One of them was in the realm of mind. So there he was laughing and joking and teaching and frolicking. And then effortlessly he could be in that state of samadhi where it's all oneness. And he talks about his own photograph and says of this external covering. Dear listeners, you need to understand these two fundamental things, that reality runs at two different levels. So one, the absolute, which is infinite, which has no part, there is no change, there cannot be any change. It's philosophically, logically, it's not possible. And the second one is at the relative plane. Relative plane is the realm of the mind. In this realm of the mind, everything is possible. In this realm of mind, there is God, and there is worship, and there is meditation, and there is birth, there is death, there is suffering, there is joy. There is also heaven, there is also hell. Do you want to enjoy all that? Yes. Most people want to. Most people want to. Thing is, they want better. But there is never better, because the good always comes with the bad. Always. And then you will say that, no, I don't want all this. I want to get out. It's not easy. Every space scientist wants that his rocket should go the farthest, should go to the moon, to the Mars, and to the deep in the galaxies. It's not possible. You need to have tons of new technologies and techniques. Tons of. You cannot go to Advaita just like that. What we are studying here is just giving us the idea. The cobwebs are getting cleared. The underbush, the undergrowth, the wild grass and wild growth that is there, they are getting cleared. Believe me, you won't believe, but those of you who have been listening to these talks, unknown to you, lots of garbage is being cleared from your mind. This will not make you an Advaiti in a day, but the process of cleaning has begun. In the remaining verses, these two ideas will keep coming repeatedly. Atman is infinite, so it cannot undergo any change. The change that we perceive is very much real in the world of the relative. When seen from the standpoint of the absolute, there cannot be any causality, and hence there is no causality. Just this much. Verse number 53. Drabyam drabyasya hetuhu syad anyat anyasya chaivahi. Drabyatvam anya bhavo va dharmanam nopapadyate. A substance may be the cause of another substance. Actually, the word drabya word is a technical term. It's often translated as substance, but actually it is a technical term. Generally, the philosophy of Nyaya uses it. Drabya means, that is, substance means anything that has parts. Anything that has a part or has parts. So a substance produces substance. Clay produces pot. Clay has parts, pot has parts. And it says anyatva. The anyatva essentially means the other one. The other one, since the reference here is of drabya, the discussion is going on regarding drabya, the substance. The other one would mean no substance. No substance means qualities. If we go by Nyaya philosophy, because commentators have not explained what exactly anyatva means. There might be this might be a term borrowed from some philosophy, but the common sense says, since drabya itself comes from Nyaya, the anyatva, the other one, has to come from Nyaya, and they talk about drabya and guna, substance and quality. So quality will produce quality, substance will produce substance. It's such a simple thing. However, Atman is neither a drabya, nor does it have anyatva, nor it is quality. Colors can produce colors. Sound can produce sound. Substance can produce substance. And some quality can produce quality. So, Nyaya and hence Vaisheshika, the two important philosophies, they talk a lot about drabya and guna, substance and qualities. Whatever is there in this world can be summed up in these two, substance and qualities. Atman is neither substance nor it is quality. And hence, it is impossible to have substance or quality in Atman. If you do not have substance and quality in Atman, its conclusions will be immense. What? Atman can neither be cause of anything, nor can it be caused by anything. Those of you who have studied Gita, you might have come across these kind of statements quite a few times, that Karya and Karan, cause and effect. What is this world? Play of cause and effect, nothing else. Cause produces effect, in turn effect produces cause. However, cause and effect is possible only if something is a substance or has a quality. Atman has neither. So neither it can be caused, nor can it be cause of anything. एवं न चित्तजा धर्मास चित्तम वापि न धर्मजम हेतुम एवं हेतु फल जातिम प्रविशन्ति मनीषिणः. Manishi, the wise ones are those who have realized Atman, those who have self-knowledge. Says, thus external appearances, that is objects, are not caused by the mind, nor is the mind caused by them. Hence, thoughtful people hold to the principle of absolute non-creation. Verse number 54 is quite simple, but its implications being profound, we need to have a look at it just a bit. That what exactly is mind? Those of you who have listened to our talks on Raj Yoga, now I mention talks of this channel, that is my talks, because I try to cover the whole. You'll find there is one talk, beginning itself, talk number probably 2 or 3. There's a discussion only on mind. What exactly is mind? To sum up, whether it be a philosopher, be it a scientist, be it one of these books thinking people or ordinary person, mind is yet to be defined by anybody, and mind cannot be defined by anybody. Take my words. Mind can never be defined by anyone. It's just not possible. Why? Because to define something, you need to take help of the simpler things that constitute the original. Supposing you have fruit juice and you want to know what exactly fruit juice is, then you break it into simpler parts and then you say that, okay, you might have seen the content, that these are ingredients, these are the things. Because you have broken it into simpler parts. In our world, mind is the simplest. Mind being the simplest, how can you define it? Because you won't have any yardstick to measure something. You need an inch tape. You need a yardstick. Those of you who have some idea about very basic physics, you know that in the Science Museum of Paris, they have kept standard weight of 1 kilogram and standard length of 1 meter. It's platinum iridium material so that it doesn't change. Even then, there are changes. However, they have standardized it. And they find that because this is changing now, they take it through vibrations of certain molecules and speed of light, etc. There has to be standardization. And then you go on dividing it into parts, which goes further low. And you go on multiplying it on the higher scale. Bottom line is, to measure anything, suppose you have this 1 meter rod and you want to measure something which is just 1 centimeter long. How can you measure it? No, it's not possible. But if you have just 1 centimeter, you can go on measuring the 1 meter thing. You need subtler things to measure the larger. Mind being the subtlest, you cannot know it. But the general perception, as far as we are concerned, the general perception is one of the two, that matter produces mind. These are the materialists. And there are the spiritualists. They say that mind produces matter. Swamiji has beautifully said that mind produces matter and matter produces mind. And this chain continues. And depending on where you hold the chain first, the next thing will come automatically after that. So mind produces matter, matter produces mind. However, the problem with mind is that Mind comes in many shades. It does logical processing. It also has volitions. It has emotions. And all it naturally confuses the scientists. It confuses all of us. When you say I love you, you put your hand here at the heart. But we don't love anybody from the heart. We love everyone from the mind. And there is a technical term for it, ahankara. When the mind attaches itself with something or someone, this is known as the junction, ahankara. When there is a loving junction, you say there is love. When you want to run away from someone, you say there is dvesh, there is a dislike. The most passionate love, act of mind. Of course, in our common parlance, sometimes, when people get angry, they say, I have thrown you out of my heart. At a lower level, they'll say, I have thrown you out of my mind. Well, when they want to be intense, when they want to be passionate, they say the heart. But there is no involvement of heart. It's all mind. And naturally, it confuses us. Naturally, it confuses even the scientists and the philosophers. The example used in the Indian tradition is that think of a potter. Now, this potter is a favorite example used in Indian system of philosophy. That is Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Vedanta, Sankhya. They all use potter because that's an act of creation which is so easily visible. A potter thinks of an idea, thinks of a pot, and he makes it. Then somebody looks at that pot, he gets the idea, and the chain continues. First, there is idea in the head of the potter. It produces an object, and the object then produces an idea. It's such a simple thing. There was this gentleman, a waterman, and waterman conceived of fountain pen. Earlier, they used to have reeds, and there used to be ink, and you used to dip that reed and write. When we were a child, we had seen that kind of writing. And waterman came up with the idea of fountain pen, where there would be a continuous flow of ink. And today, when I have this pen, I look at this pen and I get the idea that this is a pen. There's a very funny episode about this potter and pot. Well, I was at a center where there was a monk. He loved gardening, and we didn't have much space. There was just a rooftop, and there he was having some flowers and small trees. And there was a problem of the roots growing. And I suggested that under normal condition, flower pots, they're conical, like they are narrower at the bottom and broader at the top. I said, try beaker types. In beaker type, what happens? The upper part is narrow and the lower part is broad. So now this could not be done in Kolkata. I knew some rural areas. And some monk was contacted there, and then when he went to talk to these potters, they just laughed at the idea. That, but anyway, one potter agreed, and some pots were made. It was such a big failure. It was such a big failure because this is a very simple principle that roots are generally tap roots. As they go down, they are narrower. So you don't need a larger base. But the idea remains. I thought of something, passed on, he caught the idea, he made the object, and it continued. Before that, I had seen a beaker, and that had given me the idea. So, this continuous relationship between objects and ideas, it continues. This is what is cause and effect. This is what is being discussed here. It's called chittaja. Something is born of the mind. एवं न चित्तजा धर्माश्चित्तम वापि न धर्मजम हेतु एवं हेतु फल जातिम प्रविशन्ति मनीषिणः. So the external appearances, objects, are not caused by the mind. Why? Because mind is actually consciousness. Mind is non-different from Atman. Now, if mind is non-different from Atman, this is a very subtle point, because normally we don't come across such utterances in any of the scriptures that mind is consciousness. Sri Ramakrishna says, pure mind, pure Atman, they are one and the same. Yoga Shastra says, Chitta Vritti Nirodh. When the ripples of the mind calm down, mind itself becomes pure consciousness. In Rajyoga philosophy, this is not said in so many words, but the idea is, this is the idea. If mind is same as consciousness, then there cannot be any cause and effect. And if there is no cause and effect, there cannot be all this potter and pot and potter's wheel and potter's stick. All this merge into one single consciousness. That's why the example they often use is of the dream. In dream, you have so many objects, so many places, so many activities. You wake up. Where do they merge? They merge nowhere, because there was nothing. There never was anything. The verse says, Manishina, the wise ones, those who have known Atman, those who have known the self, they say that the external the external objects are born neither of the mind, nor these external objects create sensations in the mind. They cannot. Because if the objects are not produced, then how can they create any sensation? It's terrifying. Believe me, it's terrifying. So there is no birth, there is no death. There is no God to control us. There is no afterlife. Nothing is there. But what about all these sentences that we come across in the scriptures itself? For example, Gita says, Mam Yonir Mahad Brahma. Lord says, I created this universe. What about the ideas of creation, say, in Christianity or in other religions? Acharya Shankar, he beautifully now links up the past and the future. It says, but there are people who have complete identification with the mind, complete identification with the body. What will happen to them? Those who think that I am this body, those who think that by doing good, I'll go to the heaven. By doing good, I will be creating good karma. By doing evil, I will be gathering sin. And once I die, I'll get a new body. I'll enjoy better. I'll go to the heaven and enjoy. What will happen to all those people? What about them? What about all the descriptions that we come across in our scriptures related to that? Says, Yavat hetu phalaveshas, tavat hetu phalodbhavah, kshine hetu phalaveshe samsaram na prapadyate. Not the existence of the world, but the very idea of the world is being negated. The very idea of the world is being negated. Says, as long as a person clings to the belief in causality. I have a friend, and she's a doctor and extremely religious person, and fully devoted to Sri Ramakrishna and Ramakrishna ideology. And whenever I try talking to her about law of karma being just a model to explain, she kind of gets furious and she says that it's an essential principle of Hinduism. Actually, it's an essential principle of Hinduism. Those of you who have read my book, The Hindu Way, you'll find it's written. But the idea of cause and effect, it is only for those people who are identifying themselves with their body and mind. Avinivesh. Those who are identified. Avinivesh technically means those who have the strong clinging to life. But avinivesh can be applied to anything, clinging. When there is very strong clinging, when you're holding on to life, when you want to hold on to body, when you want to hold on to someone, you have a very strong sense of avinivesh. It says, if you have such strong clinging, you will believe in cause and effect. And if you believe in cause and effect, if you believe in cause and effect, then these things will continue. Dear listeners, if cause and effect is a chimera, if the idea of cause and effect itself is a mirage, it's an illusion, what about science? Believe me, science is a big illusion. It's a big illusion. We had a brother monk here at the university. He got some good name as a mathematician. So once we were having some discussion, and I told him, we were discussing something, and I just mentioned something from scriptures. He said, it's all myth. Oh my God. Like a monkey bitten by a scorpion. I said, science is also a myth. And he got so furious. How dare you call science a myth? I said, science is a myth. Science is a complete myth. Try going deep into it. The very idea that most things are probabilistic, it cuts at the root of cause and effect. The moment you say that it's probabilistic, the very idea of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, it cuts at the root of cause and effect. Planck's constant cuts at the idea of cause and effect. This, all this atomic physics, it wants to stay within the certain bounds of probability. But those of you who are interested in theory of evolution, I find it very interesting theory of evolution, because If you ask them any of these questions, if human beings are superior and if we came from monkeys and chimpanzees, etc., then why every one of the species didn't become that? And they'll come up with some wonderful solution. It's like why human beings have two legs. It's because God wanted that we should fit into trousers. What kind of argument is this? Whole of this evolutionary psychology and evolutionary biology. No, I don't question evolution. Evolution is very much true. We are evolving. We are evolving every minute. And many of you may not know that Darwin's idea of evolution of the species has been debunked. Now they say it's the evolution of the genes. Swami Vivekananda said, is the evolution of the soul in a species. Soul is struggling to come out. In some cases it wants to, in some other cases it doesn't want to, for whatever reason. In a village, two brothers say they want to grow rich. One says, I'll stay here and try to be rich. Another says, I'll go out and try to be rich. So simple. Hinduism accepts evolution fully, but not the way Darwin said. And Darwin's evolution, theory of evolution, what it is? Just a myth. You can go on explaining anything, you realize something like our Sri Ramchandra and Ramayana, and that we had aeroplanes and we had missiles, and tomorrow when new kinds of weapons will come, we'll also find all that. It's not that. This kind of theory, this kind of idea where anything can be fitted into it, this is myth. It's a big myth. Science is a big myth. Now, what about cause and effect? We all know that if you eat chili, your tongue will burn. There is cause and effect. But if there is cause and effect must work in 100% situation. Does it work as far as science is concerned? No, it doesn't. Verse number 55, this is what it says. As long as a person clings to the belief in causality, he'll find cause producing effect. But when this attachment to causality wears away, cause and effect become non existent. You go and watch a river that's flowing very slowly, gently. There might be ripples because of the wind. Think of waves producing waves. In physics, it's disturbance producing disturbance. But who produces whom? Nothing. No one is producing. It's only water. We are so attached to our mind. We are so attached to our beliefs. We are so attached to our conditions that we give these things grand names. We call them cause and effect. We call them causes, causality. We call it karmavad. And the more sophisticated ones, they call it science. It's all product of just clinging, just clinging. Simply because you are clinging on to a belief, you're seeing it. And why are you seeing it? Because you want to see it. This is Maya. The beauty of Maya lies in that. It will make you see what you want to see, just like dreams. The word that Acharya Shankar uses here, tat chit tata. Earlier there was an expression, tanmayata, tat chit tata. Your mind becomes so absorbed in something. In Yoga Sutra, we have vritti sarupya mitaratra. If you are not established in the knowledge of the self, if you are not established in your true self, you will be absorbed in ripples of the mind, thoughts of the mind. One of those thoughts, one of those very powerful thoughts is abhinivesh. Tachittata. You become identified there. You become identified. See, actually, it's not only about abhinivesh. You get identified with any of these vrittis, thought waves. I'll advise you to listen to our first 2-3 talks in that Raj Yoga series. And that will make ideas much more clear. What is this world? Tachittata. Why do you love somebody? Tachittata. Why do you hate somebody? Tachittata. Why do you want to be an achiever? Tachittata. Why do you want to be just a lazy person, do nothing? Tachittata. It's an idea. First, you latch on to that idea, and then you become one with that idea, and then you make your entire life revolve around that idea. Oh, what else is there? And then comes suffering, heartbreaks, disillusions, and then you say, no more. And then you realize that there was no causality. Forget about birth and death. Birth and death, these are just small aspects of causality. It is cause and effect. There is no causality. If there is no causality, then what remains? Pure mind, pure Atman. And you realize that they are one and the same. The goal is not to get out of bad habits. The goal is not to get out of the sin. The goal is not to be devoted towards some God. The goal is not to be pure, etc. The goal is just one, to get out of tat chittata, absorption. We had mentioned once that awareness increases eminence. We have lived for so long with the idea that causality is a truth, causality is a fundamental fact of life, that we cannot let it go. We cannot let it go. And because we cannot let it go, all this birth and death, misery and happiness, rebirth, heaven and hell, all these continue. Do they exist? Yes, for people who are into tachittata, tanmayata. You are so absorbed with that idea that it won't let you come out. Next verse says, Yavat hetu phalavesha sangsarastavat ayatah kshine hetu phalaveshe sangsaram na prapadyate. The world is now being extinguished. Alat Shanti. We had mentioned that this chapter is Alat Shanti. It says, as long as a person clings to the belief in causality, samsara will continue to expand. Oh, God. You might have heard of the expression in physics, the expanding universe. For me, for you, it's the expanding samsara, expanding world. The world expands. Samsara expands. Samsara is the only word we can use. You think you will get joy by doing something, and you go and get it. Like this beautiful story of that sadhu who had only one copy in the garment, and the rats used to come and cut it. So then he asked for another copine, and he said, no, more than copine, you need a cat. Cat was brought, and because of cat, milk was needed. Because of milk, the cow was needed. Because of the cow, a maid was needed. And for all this, he had to get married. And that's how Samsarastavat ayataha. It kept on growing, kept on growing. How big is the universe? Expanding universe. There's no expanding universe. It's you who expands the universe. Of course, for yourself. Why? Simply because you believe in causality. You are bored with life. You want some change, you want some excitement. You go out on a trip, and during that trip, you meet somebody, and then some kind of bond, some kind of relationship, some kind of friendship ensues. Then you promise to meet again, to write to each other again, and to call each other. Your world has expanded. Samsara has expanded. All this happens simply because we believe in causality. Stop worrying. Stop getting identified. Kshine hetu phala vishay. Once you stop believing in cause and effect, once you, like there were agnostics in Greek philosophy, they used to question everything. What's the guarantee that it will give me joy? Questioning. Causality is question. Questioning the very idea of causality is a very big step in life, in philosophy of life, etc. Samsaram na prapadyate. Then the world stops growing for you. You're sitting here and slowly you are expanding. Your universe is expanding, your sansar is expanding. More your sansar expands, more entangled you are. You want mukti. Sansara has to come back. Sansara has to come back to that point. How do you bring it back? By cutting at the root of cause and effect. And that is to know that there is no cause and no effect. But what about the scriptures? They talk about cause and effect. They do talk about creation. This will be taken up in the next talk. Thank you so much. Om Shanti Shanti.